This is my Assassin's Creed hidden blade made of cardboard. Yeah, you heard that right, cardboard. And no, there's no electronics inside. Just a simple rubber band mechanism. Well, simple, but not that simple. You see, it's easy to make a blade that extends, but to make a blade that both extends and retracts, now that is where things get a little tricky. As someone who has been a lifelong crafter, it has been a total childhood dream of mine to build a dual action hidden blade. When I was younger, I remember seeing a bunch of videos online about people making hidden blades, and I just remember being so mind blown. And as much as I wanted to make one myself, I just didn't know where to start. That is, until I discovered this. This is an OTF knife. It's a type of knife that mechanically extends and retracts with the push of a button. After doing a bit of research and learning how this mechanism works, I realized this was exactly what I needed to build a dual action hidden blade. So I got to work. First things first, there's many different types of cardboard out there, but today we'll be using this 2mm thick non-corrugated cardboard. I bought a bunch of sheets of this on Amazon, but if you really want to be resourceful, you could also probably just glue a couple sheets of cereal box on top of each other as well. If you want to give this build a try, feel free to download my template for free using the link in the description. Just so you know, all the pieces of the template are numbered in the order that they appear in this video. And hey, by the way, if you appreciate my free templates, you can always show your support by just simply dropping a like on this video, which helps it reach more people. So thank you. As you can see, the first few pieces of this hidden blade make up the enclosure, basically the thing that's going to house the blade and its mechanics inside. Like usual, I'm going to use plenty of super glue here, which turns the cardboard into a very stiff, almost wood-like material. See these tiny pieces right here? Well, it's important that you punch the hole first and then cut out the cardboard after that, because it's very difficult to punch a clean hole after you've already cut out that cardboard. These three pieces, when stacked on top of each other, are going to make up the lock for the locking mechanism. Basically, this thing is going to pivot on a little paper clip like this, and it's going to pivot in and out of the way of the blade. So when this lock pivots away from the blade will be able to slide past the lock, but until then, this lock simply keeps the blade, well, locked and keeps it from moving. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. You'll see how this all works in a bit. Here, I make sure not to use too much super glue because I don't want to accidentally get that lock stuck. I want it to be able to pivot freely like this. Now that I have my lock in place, I need a way for that lock to be able to automatically reset itself after being unlocked. And that's where this little pen spring comes into play. Basically, you can unlock the lock by pushing it, and then the lock automatically resets itself back into the locked position once nothing is pushing it anymore. I added a second lock on the other side there by following the exact same steps as before, except everything is mirrored on the other side. After that, I glued these little side rails here, which are just there to guide the blade as it slides in and out. And before one of you asks, because I know this is a common question, just know that as long as you're using a liquid super glue and not a gel super glue, you'll be just fine. I don't know about you, but I like saving money. That's why I've partnered with TEMU, the sponsor of today's video. Right now, TEMU just launched a New Year promotion where all new app users can get a $100 coupon bundle for free. To claim this $100 coupon bundle, all you have to do is download the TEMU app and then enter my code into the search bar. Personally, I picked up this rotary tool, these precision tweezers, and this electric screwdriver, all from TEMU. And for my 3D printing friends out there, check out this Creality filament dryer, which removes moisture from filament that's been sitting for a while. As you can see, using that $100 coupon bundle I just showed you, I can get $30 off this filament dryer, and I can get $25 off this Sunlu filament connector, which is super convenient for when you've got a small amount of filament left on the roll. In case you're not sure what this is, basically this thing heats and fuses two ends of filament together. That way you don't have to deal with having rolls of filament that are like about to finish. But wait, there's more. Instead of using that first code I showed you, alternatively I also have another code, and if you type that into the search bar, that one will allow you to select anywhere from 3 to 10 items for $0. Yeah, $0. As long as you place a qualifying order that meets a minimum balance. Once again, these offers are exclusively for new app members, and by the way, these codes must be used within 24 hours of redemption, so don't wait too long. Thank you, TEMU, for sponsoring, and now, back to the hidden blade. Let's go ahead and make the actual blade part. Notice this little tab right here? Well, everything is laid out in the template, so there won't be as much guesswork for you as there was for me. That being said, if you're going to build this, you should still expect some degree of guesswork. Yes, I tried my very best to make a template that is accurate and easy to follow, but at the end of the day, there's so many variables, and the tolerances of all the moving parts are kind of tight. So try not to get discouraged if you end up having to tinker a little bit. And honestly, I would even take it a step further and say that you should try to experiment and improve on this design if you can, because even though the final product turned out awesome, there's still a lot of room for improvement, I think. Here's that locking mechanism in action now, so as you can see, that blade can't move forward until you unlock this lock. Once the blade slides forward, it engages the other lock, which keeps the blade stuck in place. Then once you unlock that, the blade is free to slide back the other way. At this point, we've made some good progress, but we still have a long way to go before the blade is able to extend and retract just by pulling a string. So let's carry on to the next step, which is to make this piece here. And since this is a very important piece, let's give it a name. Let's just call it the L-shaped piece. Now, on that L-shaped piece, we're going to glue a little hook made from a paper clip here, and that hook is going to have a rubber band attached to it, so I made sure to coat this L-shaped piece very generously with super glue. That way it can withstand all the stress and tension from the rubber band. I made a mirrored copy of that L-shaped piece, and now we can connect our two L-shaped pieces with this rubber band. In the beginning, when I was first planning how to make this hidden blade, I thought about using a spring instead of rubber bands, since rubber bands inevitably break over time. But in the end, I went with rubber bands because I figured if I could just make the whole thing easy to take apart, then that would make the rubber band easy to replace. So that's what I did. I designed everything to be able to come apart easily with magnets, which you'll see later on, of course. This next piece here, let's call it the sliding piece. Now, once we have this sliding piece in place, believe it or not, the blade can actually extend and retract now. Well, actually, hold on, not so fast. Before I can show you that blade extending and retracting, I just really quickly need to fix a little mistake I made earlier. This little tab that I glued on the blade earlier is actually too small, so I just simply ripped it off and glued a bigger one. One other thing I need to mention is you actually need to sand this piece down until it's slightly shorter than the height of this other piece here. I'll show you. So see how it's slightly shorter right there? That's exactly what you want, because that'll basically reduce friction. Okay, now I can put the sliding piece back on, and look at that. Okay, now I know you're probably still confused about how this works. I haven't really given you a proper explanation, so let's take this whole thing apart and let me give you a proper explanation of what each piece is doing. Okay, so first of all, let's take a closer look at what this L-shaped piece is doing here. Now, remember, this L-shaped piece has a rubber band attached to it, therefore it wants to push the blade forward like this. But when that blade is locked, it has nowhere to go. So only once you unlock that lock is the L-shaped piece able to move forward and push the blade out. Let me show you what this looks like with the rubber band now. So notice as soon as I unlock this lock, that L-shaped piece shoots forward and the blade slides along the track. And now to make the blade slide back the other way, all I have to do is move this L-shaped piece forward, which puts tension on the blade, and then you just unlock the lock like before. Next, let me show you what the sliding piece is doing. So the main job of the sliding piece is to lock and unlock the locks. As you can see, while one side is locked, the other side is unlocked, and it just keeps switching back and forth. Now, the next thing you need to understand is that the rubber band is pulling those L-shaped pieces in the same direction as the sliding piece. Like, see how these three pieces are all one single moving part? Well, what happens is, as the sliding piece moves forward, this L-shaped piece naturally wants to move forward with it, but it can't move forward because it's hooking onto that little tab on the blade right there. Only once the sliding piece fully unlocks the lock, then the L-shaped piece is free to move forward. See how that L-shaped piece snaps forward like that? That is what propels the blade out. In order to make the blade retract, again, this L-shaped piece can't move with the sliding piece because it's hooking onto the blade right there. So you just unlock the lock, and then that short little burst of energy gives the blade momentum to slide back the other way. Now, right now, my fingers are like pressing down on it, so it's getting stuck in the middle from all that friction, as you can see, but normally you would not be pressing down on it like this. Normally the blade would have enough momentum to just slide all the way by itself. Here's what the actual sliding piece looks like. It's actually made up of two layers of cardboard. The bottom layer of cardboard is the one that unlocks the locks, and then the top layer of cardboard, well, that one has a little slit on it which allows you to slide it back and forth. At some point, I started worrying that the blade might get stuck in between this little gap right here, so I just added a piece of cardboard there to fill the gap. And now, this piece of cardboard is not included in the template because it's probably unnecessary, but I just wanted to show you anyway, just in case. Remember the very first piece I cut out? Well, I cut out an exact copy of that shape again, except this time I cut a hole right where the slit is. And I'll show you exactly what that hole is for in just a second, but first, I cut and glued these little circles here. These are not in the template, they're just cut from a standard hole puncher. And I added magnets so that this top cover piece can be removed. That way I can do repairs if I need to. Alright, so now we need to figure out a way to make this slit move back and forth. And that's where this comes in. I'm going to call this next piece that we're making the disc piece. See this little bamboo skewer here? Well, that is what's going to move the slit back and forth as this disc piece rotates 180 degrees. This next piece that you're looking at, it's quite a tricky shape, so I used a fresh, sharp blade to cut it, otherwise it would be difficult to get those crisp edges. When gluing these two pieces together, the orientation does matter here. Notice how those two notches are positioned in relation to where the bamboo skewer is. That's really important. Like I just mentioned, this disc piece rotates 180 degrees, and that is how the bamboo skewer is able to move the slit back and forth. Now we need to add a string. So if you look closely, you'll notice that there's a little hole where I'm going to feed the string through later on. At this point in the build, all we basically have to do now is just figure out a way to make the disc piece rotate just by pulling on a string. And we also need that string to reset itself each time you pull on it. So that's what this rubber band is for. This rubber band is going to reset the string each time you pull on it, like this. This next step is a little tricky because you need to tie a knot in the string, but you sort of need to make sure that the knot is like in the middle of the string and not lopsided. At the same time, you also need to make sure that this knot is able to pass freely in between this little crevice right here. At first, when I was doing this, the crevice was too small for the knot, so I ended up having to trim down the cardboard until I could get that knot to slide freely like this. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret now. Most of the pieces that require cutting a circle were actually not cut by hand. I actually used leather hole punches, same ones I used on my Stormbreaker, and that makes cutting circles so much easier. Of course, I'll leave links in the description to these tools and materials I used. See that notch there? Essentially, that knot on the string rotates the disc 180 degrees. Then, when you let go of the string, the whole thing resets and it's like a never-ending cycle. By the way, the string I'm using is 0.3mm braided fishing line. It's a very, very tough string, which is important because the string is going to have to endure a lot of friction. As you can see, that string travels along this path here, wraps around the disc, and then connects to the rubber band. When you pull on that string, you're basically moving the bamboo skewer, which is moving the sliding piece because the bamboo skewer is hooking onto that slit in the sliding piece. Okay, time to fix some mistakes now. Turns out this knot was too small because sometimes it would slip out of the notch. So I made the knot slightly bigger, and because of that, I had to go back and make sure this could still fit in between this chasm right here, so I trimmed away some material. Remember earlier how I said that the knot has to be able to pass freely in between this crevice? Well, since I made the knot bigger, that meant I had to remove some more cardboard until I could get the knot to fit. I tried my best to account for all these changes in the template, that way you're getting the final version of all these pieces. There's another change I decided to make, which is that instead of having the string permanently tied to the rubber band, I removed the rubber band from the string, then attached a hook to the string, and then attached the rubber band to the hook. So now, when the rubber band breaks, it's really easy to replace it. Next, we need to add a limit to how far the string can travel so that the bamboo skewer doesn't rotate more than about 180 degrees. It took me a while to get that string to stop in the exact right spot, but once I got it dialed in, it was really satisfying. One problem I ran into was the disc was kind of protruding out a little bit like this, and that was adding unnecessary friction on the sliding piece, so I just chopped that down a little bit until it was flush. The next problem I ran into was that when you pull on the string, there's nothing stopping this whole piece from sliding forward like this. So I simply added some stoppers at the front. And then I also went ahead and added a stopper on the inside as well. But, as I'm narrating this, I literally just realized I forgot to add a piece there that would stop that triangle from moving forward. That piece that you're looking at is kind of useless because I didn't add a piece in front of it, if that makes any sense. But that's alright. Since I trimmed this part earlier, I realized that there was a big gap here now, and that's no good because we need that disc piece to be on like a steady rotation. So I just swapped this out for a bigger piece, and again, I tried my best to reflect all these changes in the template. Right now, there's nothing keeping that disc piece held down in place, and so I could just glue a piece on top of the disc, but in that case, the disc would be permanently fixed in place and you wouldn't be able to disassemble it. So instead, I made this simple magnetic piece here that keeps the disc held down in place, but it can be easily removed at any point in case I ever need to repair anything, or if I just want to be able to show what it looks like on the inside. This piece right here is totally optional. It's just for looks, and I just thought it would look cool if you could physically see this gear rotating as the blade extends and retracts. Now, we need to make a piece that keeps the string from popping out, and that's what this is for. The magnets I'm using here are a bit smaller than the ones I used earlier, just so I can keep a low profile. And basically, as long as this piece is connected, the string won't be able to pop out of place. I'm now going to add a leather strap to the hidden blade so that I can wear it. And as I'm doing that, I want to take a moment to thank my patrons, Allison Brend, Calvin Thiley, Chevy Blackout, Colin, Gregory Pepin, Horsehead Henry, Janelle, Max Trax, who's been my longest supporting patron, so thank you Max Trax, Susan Jackson, and Ty. Thank you very much for supporting me on Patreon. Now that my strap is in place, all that's left to do is tie a ring to the string, and we're done. That is how I made a dual action hidden blade out of cardboard. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, click on this screen right here to watch my previous video where I made a motorized Iron Man helmet.
3, 2, 1.
Oh,
right? Oh, pull that off, and I feel pretty good about even our first test.
That looks pretty good.
Well, now we're going to talk about what
goodness.
what happens when we stretch it.
Oh.